I'm very pleased to be here with you. My name is Hans Hendrischke. I'm Professor for Chinese Business and Management at the University of Sydney Business School. When I arrived in China, there was a planned economy and there was no business. You needed your liangpiao and your gupiao. People couldn't buy things. People had to rely on allocations. And I worked in finance with Chinese companies in the 1980s. And I saw how they had to struggle, how they had to get things into the annual plan, or if they had bigger projects, how they had to wait till they could get into the 5-year plan. All of this was very restrictive and very regulated. I think the biggest change that China made was to allow private enterprises to emerge. It was quite important to have state-owned enterprises becoming more entrepreneurial. I think it was important to have the policies coming from the top, and China had very smart politicians. The main effect really was that at local level, and I've seen that in Jiangsu, in Zhejiang, I've seen it in Shandong, so a number of provinces, how people were allowed to set up their own enterprises and to go for themselves. And that created so much confidence and changed people's mind, so they were not relying on the state, but they were relying on themselves. To make that possible, I think, was the biggest major change that China achieved, and part of that was, of course, to have local governments being able to support that. So this was a big policy change. The private sector being now able to essentially support the Chinese economy was the biggest achievement. The Chinese government has played a role in a whole range of different levels. At the central level, where you get the broad policy framework, and that sometimes is more in favor of business, sometimes it's more restrictive, so there are gradual changes. And the other side of the government I see at local government. That's down at county governments or even township, where you have local governments, you have local party secretaries who really play a very big role in allowing local enterprises to grow, to go into overseas markets, to expand. I think as long as these two work well together, then the Chinese economy is doing really well. One point which is quite crucial is the degree to which the central government largely allows opening to happen. The more China is opening up to letting companies go out and do business, the more I think Western countries trust and are willing to cooperate with China. When economic growth is starting to slow down, then countries have to sit back and say, well, how do we want to structure our economy? Do we want to emphasize more equality? Do we want to create equal opportunities? What do we want to do with health services and social services? So I think China at the moment has been going along and has been driven by this enormous growth that we had over the last 3-4 decades. And at some stage, probably these decisions will become more clear, and then we will see to what extent or how China balances economic growth and how it balances essentially commitment to a capitalist or capital-based economy and commitment to a socialist economy, which is much more looking at equality, social services and social welfare. So that's when China has to find a balance. 一个现在已经找不到了，是老北京。我79年第一次到了北京，那个时候他们刚在建那个2环，所以2环里头好像各种各样的道路马路我都跑过，或者骑自行车都去过。当时北京的胡同、小地方，我还记得很清楚。现在化了。这些地方找不到了，但是我还是非常喜欢回北京，想古老的世界。